So today I'm with Hugh and he's having a look around our new garden, and Hugh has also been setting up a new garden this year, so we thought we'd share some of our thoughts about things that we've learnt.
Yep.
And some of the ideas that we'll be taking forward from here.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
You've started a garden from scratch.
Yes.
Did you have a plan? Did you draw out a plan? Was it that organised, or did you have a feel for it?
I was like, well, I basically thought, where could I create a boundary?
Yeah.
I.e. fence. Created it. I thought, great, let's start filling it with some things. I think sometimes with a garden you like have that sense of keenness and urgency, and it's trying to find a fine balance, because like if you want to follow permaculture by the letter, you need to observe like the land for a year before you do anything.
Absolutely. But you and I both gone into the situation where we're growing on a hillside that is previously been farmland.
Yes.
So there's very little that has been nurtured in terms of growing in it, and it doesn't take an awful lot of time to observe the arc of the sun.
No.
And to see where the water moves down
Exactly.
the land.
And I also believe in the fact of actually sometimes just going and making a big change and then adapting around that kind of bigger change and making smaller things to help enhance that, rather than doing a few little small things and then you're already a year behind when you're trying to set your proper food garden or something.
And if I was creating a purely ornamental garden, taking over from an old garden, I would absolutely spend a year just watching and enjoying what was there. And I might
and propagating plants. Oh, I'll take a cutting of that.
Yes, absolutely. And I might add a few bits and pieces in, but I would want to see what's growing, because I wouldn't want to plant something on top of where there's going to be a beautiful bulb display or something. But when you're growing food for your family, there is more of a sense of urgency, as you say. And when you're going into what is just farmland, there is, I mean, and one of the things we've learnt here is this land was so overgrazed when we moved in that it was just like little clumps of grass between the soil, and now it's amazing.
Yeah, I think as long as just it's that basic understanding of where's the water going to go? Well, here it's downhill. And then where's the sun? And then you make some beds. 9 times out of 10, that's all you really need to do.
Yeah,
I think. But also, I think the other thing that I learnt was there was initially a spring that we were going to tap into from further up, and then it dried up in April, and then we literally have no water source.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing to think about, is sometimes you can get so excited and then you suddenly think, oh yeah, where do I get the water from? Because in March and April in Wales, you're not thinking about that.
No. Oh no, what you're thinking about is how you get the water off the
land.
Yeah,
and then you're like, I need to water things. So.
And I did exactly that. So when I put in the drainage ditches here, and I put them in, and I said, come the summer, I'm going to be regretting putting these in for the 3 weeks a year that it's really dry here. But even so, we need to put in our water collection here. So that's definitely something to think about.
One of the interesting things for me starting a new growing area is what are the pests like, because it's a whole new growing experience. There's a lot to learn. You're not entirely sure how many other people are growing around here, how many cabbage whites there are. They just seem to be everywhere. That's what I've learnt. How have you found the pest pressure of this new garden? Because it's only 8 months old and it's stunning. I can't see too much pest issue, apart from I see having to use these nets.
So I've netted one lot of cabbages, and I haven't netted anything else because there were no cabbage white butterflies until about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, so you're like,
I was like, I can be fine, I don't need them. Well, that was silly. So we've now got a lot of cabbage white, butterfly and moth caterpillars. So I'm doing a lot of hand picking of those, and I've got some more brassicas to go in that I will be netting.
Yeah.
Other than that, we don't seem to be hit by too many pests. There were some flea beetles or maybe pea and bean beetles on the beans. And as yet, not too much pressure, but filling
slugs.
these.
What about slugs?
There are plenty of slugs, but we're never going to get rid of them. And the way that I'm going to deal with them is I'm going to let the ducks through here in the autumn and winter, as long as they're not having to be shut away.
Well, I was quite impressed. Close to that long grass, I can't see like the slug damage that one might expect.
Yeah, there's not too much slug damage now. We are starting to get birds in here. So there are thrushes that are here on a regular basis, and robins. So I can see over there the resident robin is, and sparrows are also here as well.
Amazing.
Things like dragonflies are appearing.
Oh, nice.
So
Because this is just a field.
Yes.
So you've probably, through creating this lovely space, you're like, all the pollinators and beneficial insects around here probably just want to give you a massive kiss.
There has been a lot of work on pulling beneficial insects in.
I found the same thing. It was as a valley of just basically a few trees and lots of big fields. The other day I counted 4 common blue butterflies just all flying about.
Wow.
I know they're called common blue, but I haven't seen much of them before.
I think they're less common than...
like most things.
Yeah. And I've consciously left big clumps of stinging nettles to grow and dock leaves and well, just the weeds basically. And there's such a huge variety, but I'm really pleased on the stinging nettles. Earlier in the year I found lots of small tortoiseshell caterpillars, and then recently I found peacock butterfly caterpillars in huge numbers. So hopefully some of those will survive, because you can have an enormous clump of caterpillars and really only by the time the birds have been in and they've got too hot or too wet or too cold or whatever, you only get a few. But it's always just about encouraging and not being too tidy. Yeah,
and I honestly think that creating space for wildlife it's too easy. It's just too easy. I love it. It's kind of quite addicting, I think.
One of the things that I've learnt this year is going on from you saying about just get stuff growing, is even if you start getting stuff growing, you actually need to get it into the ground.
Yeah.
Because there's a few plants that are still sitting around in pots here, and it's made a really stark contrast. So over there...
What, is this sown on the same day?
They were sown on the same day.
Same day.
In the same tray.
Baby.
All the same conditions.
Daddy.
So yes, I'm going to get Brussels sprouts from one of those and probably not the other. And then again with the Nicotiana, that's the plug plant I bought, potted into there, and then potted on rather than into the ground. This one didn't get potted into the ground.
I think as well in the first year it's okay to just not think too hard about a plan or something and just put things in, because that's going to like kind of super speed your learning, I think.
It's going to speed your learning, but it's also going to massively improve what's going on in the soil.
Yeah, because all of those roots around like up to like a third to like 40% of the sugars that a plant creates during photosynthesis actually goes out from the roots and feeds the soil life, which then for the following year is going to be very beneficial for when you maybe do have a bit more of a plan.
Even though Hugh and I approach gardening from the same basic premise of working with nature.
And the same like deep-rooted passion.
Yes. We also have different things that we do differently.
Yes.
And
spice of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wouldn't it be boring if everybody's gardens were the same?
Oh.
And we'd only need to make one video.
I wouldn't be bothered to come here, for example.
So let's have a little think about some of the things that we've done this year that we haven't done before that we'd have liked and we're going to take forward.
Well, for me, the thing that stands out is creating kind of a dedicated perennial herb garden.
Nice.
That was so so lovely because I love fresh mint tea and like actually getting lots of mint, packing it into a kettle, boiling. It's just so fresh. It's amazing. But everything from mint to chamomile to then rosemary is all the basics, and then getting into more interesting things. I really like curly mint, for example. That just looks really odd and cool. But getting creative with that, and at this time of year, it's all flowering. It looks stunning. You know, I've got bronze fennel, for example, and there are so many pollinators, and it's the aroma of it walking through.
I bet that's fantastic.
It's stunning. It's its own kind of set little perennial herb garden, and I love it. With most perennial herbs, they're also really easy to propagate.
Yes.
So it's kind of my propagation station. How about you?
New for me this year has been growing on a slope.
Yes, of course, because you're like a
it was
tennis,
almost flat
tennis court
at the last place. Yeah, so this growing on a slope, varying from not too slopey to what feels like quite steep.
Yeah.
And so I've been creating these raised beds, which are actually deeper on one side than the other, so that the soil can then be level.
And I'm just going to quickly jump in. I love your idea of adapting the different carrot varieties. So you've got the shorter ones at the top and then the deeper ones at the bottom to make use of that. So
yes, so ducks are saying hello.
Yeah, they're like, film us. I'm like, yes, your time will come.
So yeah, the idea with that was that the red call chantenay only get to 2 or 3 inches long, and that's about as much soil as there is on the narrow bit, on the shallower bit. And so what I want to do next year is then to increase the depth of some of these raised beds, which means creating more compost or buying it in, because as you said, first year we haven't made a huge amount of compost yet. It's coming, but it's going to take a while. But to increase the depth so that I can grow more more large root vegetables, and also things like leeks can be planted much deeper if we've got the depth of soil. So you haven't been sitting on your laurels this year. You haven't just been gardening.
No.
There's other stuff going on as well, isn't there?
Bits and bobs. Yes.
Bits and bobs. So.
Well, firstly, I'm very excited that my colleague Sam, that some people probably follow on Instagram, Chef Sam Black, his book, well, by the time you're watching it, has come out, and it's called The Nature of Food, and it's basically following the gardening year, all 4 seasons, and creating really delicious recipes that bringing so many fun flavours together, but really simple, and recipes that you want to share. And I'm so incredibly proud of what he's put together.
Nice.
And then there's been some other things. The second edition for Veg in One Bed, which is crazy because it felt like it only came out a year ago, is coming out.
Was it? Was it 3?
3 or nearly 4.
4, yeah.
It's coming out in March, not sure of the date. So that's going to be fun. And then also I've now got the online shop, hughesgarden.com. So the idea is that it's a kind of a one-stop shop for new gardeners or any gardener just needing whatever they need. So for example, we're selling Vigo Garden metal raised beds, also my own custom designed cold frames,
and
mini
they're
greenhouses.
Fantastic.
And we're also selling vital seeds, so if you're needing your organic seeds, tools, water stuff, campfires, all sorts of things. And also my books, of course. And also speaking to someone who I know doesn't know really what rest is. Anything exciting happening soon?
Yes, so in April, my second book, The Seasoned Gardener, will be published. I'm really excited about that.
I bet.
And it's got the foreword by a very good friend of mine, Hugh.
Oh, sorry. That was such slapstick comedy, wow. Anyway, let's continue. How are you feeling about that?
Oh, I'm so excited. Writing Grounded was in some ways very simple because I was just writing my story. And The Seasoned Gardener is a much more considered book. It's a beautiful read. Thank you. It's still a very personal journey. It's about my gardening year. It's about the feelings, the smells, the way that I interact with nature. and hopefully it's going to inspire people to actually just enjoy their gardens more and see them more as part themselves, as more as part of the garden, rather than it being two separate entities.
I also like that you start the book in a time of year where most gardening books don't start, and I think that that's really fascinating.
Yeah, so start in autumn.
Yeah.
And then the whole book is based around, rather than when you sow seeds or plant plants, it's about when you harvest.
That's so exciting. Where can people get it?
So it's available all online bookstores and on my website, bytherfarm.com.
Amazing to see what you've created in just a few short months.
Thanks for visiting.